Now moving on back to Putin and Trump fighting over Venezuela. This, we're talking about a lot of conflicts about war and the consequences of war.
It's a foreign policy episode.
The foreign policy episode. We should have a screen title right there, something like that. Yeah, so Putin to Trump, foreign meddling undermines chances of political settlement in Venezuela. Now look, before I go any further into the article, again, what's happening in Venezuela is a problem that the people of Venezuela are going to have to solve. First, you have Juan Guaido, who didn't even enter into the elections, but is now somehow propped up by Western governments, including this Trump administration, and to a lesser extent some establishment Democrats, saying that he is the quote-unquote legitimate leader of Venezuela, even though he didn't even enter into the elections. It's like me just, walking into City Hall and saying, I'm the new Chicago mayor. Everyone get out of here.
He is Canada and China and you backing him, so it must be true.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And so, again, whatever your opinions are on whatever type of governments are running their own countries, this is a problem that Venezuela is going to have to solve, all right? And our interference will only cause a bigger humanitarian crisis. So, at least according to this phone call, Venezuela's future might be decided by these two world leaders. I can't think of a more frightening situation, and I dare I say, I think Putin is the one with the more calmer, cooler head in all of this.
It's crazy. Yeah. Again, this is not a situation where Putin's like moral high ground. It's more of a U.S. is just so low that he can just be just above some level, and he's still going to be doing better.
So the Russian and U.S. presidents talked on the phone on Friday. Among other issues, they discussed Venezuela, where a military coup attempt was averted earlier this week. Foreign meddling and attempts at forceful regime change in Venezuela only undermine any prospects of resolving crisis through political means, Putin said, and this is very important. This is what he told Trump. This is from, at least according from this article, this is what Trump said, not Trump, but Putin said to President Trump. Only Venezuelans themselves have the right to determine the future of their country. Basically, and it also should be noted that United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo claimed that Maduro was about to flee Venezuela for Cuba during the escalation, and apparently he's making the comment that it was the Russians who told him to stay. Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, said that these statements were false, and so I don't know what's happening here, but basically there was a failed attempt, and now we're dealing with the fallout from that. And I can imagine what's the next step going to be, especially for this administration. And the thing is, when we have to look at Trump's administration, he inherited a lot of resources from the previous administrations, Bush and Obama. And, he didn't, it wasn't that Trump came up with this idea. This was a plan that was going on for a very long time. And Trump inherited all of this. And he's put an ugly face on U.S. policy, specifically foreign policy. And yet, even still, there seems to be a lack of action by, quote unquote, the resistance from the Democratic establishment to really call out against Trump. Because remember, the fossil fuel industry also gives a huge amount of money to Democratic establishment leaders as well. So, guys, I want to kind of get your thoughts on this conversation between Trump and Putin.
Let me paraphrase Nancy Pelosi for a second. Trump is a terrible person that needs to be stopped in all ways, in all shapes, all forms possible, but we're still going to expand military funding. We're going to give him more power. We're going to give him more influence. We're going to support the foreign policies that he does. We're going to stand aside and let him do all the domestic policies he wants to do, but we really, really don't like him.
Yeah.
I think it's funny the Pompeo comment there that Maduro was about to flee Venezuela. Like, who believes that? I'm sure there's some people out there that are like, oh, the coup's almost done. We got him. He's running away. And it's like, right, but Pompeo also said that there was a sleeper Hezbollah cell in Venezuela. Who trusts him?
In North Korea.
Right. What? Like, that's ridiculous. And again, talking about, Putin has this very, very low bar to clear of just being like, hey, maybe we should respect the sovereignty of a sovereign nation. That's a very low bar to clear.
Yeah. And you know what? I guarantee after the phone call, like Putin probably said to his aides, like, guys, I am surprised I'm even having these kind of conversations.
I was in the KGB.
Sorry, I had to define words.
No, but again, let me ask the American people, let's ask ourselves this as Americans, no matter what your political belief is, would you like it if some country did this to us? And I'm not talking about Russiagate. Everyone needs to get over that damn thing. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about if a sovereign superpower just came in, maybe let's say Russia and China decided to say, oh, hey, Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, you are the president of the United States. You have our backing of our economy and our military. Go inside the White House and throw Trump out. I'm pretty sure that will make a lot of neoliberals happy, and those who drink up the corporate media Kool-Aid. They're very happy to. Like, Trump's gone. The
Then
boogeyman's
Nancy
gone.
Pelosi starts appointing foreign ambassadors in China and Russia.
Yeah.
But then not in addition
We wouldn't
to
like
that,
that.
China's like, we're going to actively help you, coordinating with you to economically hurt the U.S.
Yeah.
So China starts boycotting stuff that hurts us in very, very key ways, stop sending us resources or whatever the base send
Start
us.
sending aid packages
Aid
filled
packages,
with
yeah,
weapons.
yes.
Yeah.
China starts sending them, and then when the U.S. is like, what are these doing here? They're like, they're not taking them. They're not taking them at all.
Yeah.
And then when the U.S. is like, hey, there are rifles in here, China's like, nope, you put them in there. We have to escalate now. You're trying to stop humanitarian aid. Look at all the people in your country that are starving. Look at all the people that you aren't getting education. We are a huge country. We don't have the jail population. You do, America. We need to help you.
Yeah.
This analogy is perfect.
You know, and again, it's just all of it. You know, to our viewers and to those who like us and those who are critical of us, like this, we got to ask ourselves: this is a problem that just goes even further? Because let's say hypothetically, in the worst case scenario, the United States gets what it wants. If there's a civil war in Venezuela and we put our person, quote unquote, person in charge,
We got to go in and help them for humanitarian reasons.
then guess what? There's going to be another country on the list, and another country on the list, and another country on the list. And this isn't how a democratic nation should work. We should be in support of other democracies. But yet, if we rewind back the clocks to 1950, the United States, the CIA, and Great Britain, and as well as the oil industries too, worked together to get rid of the national government, the democratically elected government of Iran in the 1950s, and replace it with the Shah. I mean, this is insanity. We as a democratic nation should be in full support of other countries creating democracy. I mean, this is what the whole idea of the Revolutionary War was about, to get away from tyrants and kings, but yet we're putting in more tyrants and more kings and more emperors and all this other stuff. And it's very interesting that that it's May 4th right now, and people are big Star Wars fans, and yet you have the rebellion fighting against this huge galactic fascist empire, but yet still we're just turning a blind eye to the actions of what we're doing.
I want to just, before Paul makes his point.
Sorry for the Star Wars analogy too, but it's just interesting,
when we
man.
spoke earlier about Israel and where they're going, I gotta, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and the tree being America.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's yeah.
Now, to the point you were making, Kit, like, it's unconscionable that we do things this way. This is the stance that we've taken. It doesn't comply with international law. It's well outside of what any rational government should be doing. And then I'm reminded of about a year ago, John Bolton loudly decrying that we would be withdrawing from the ICCC, and like, we're just not gonna be on board with any international agreements. Not gonna be on board with any of the international courts. We're not beholden to them. We're not gonna be we're not gonna submit to their authority at all. So we've washed our hands from any kind of international accountability, and these are the resulting actions of that. These clearly are the desired actions we wanted to take, and why it required that we remove ourselves from the international court system. And I mean, that's what we have. When you're not accountable to anyone else, this is what happens.
And I gotta say, though, there is a nice catch to this, that if we get to a point where we get through this and do things correctly, even if, like, I would expect that, like the day before Trump leaves office, he resigns, and then Pence, pardons him. Mm-hmm. That I think that, I don't think a U.S. pardon matters all that much in international courts.
No, I don't think
that
it
might
does.
be a way to deal with all these pardons that are happening, where people are really war criminals. I'd like to see Dick Cheney sent to an international court. I'd like to see everyone that's committed crimes that has been pardoned out of them to be sent to these courts. Good luck enforcing that pardon.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to be done, but what can be done is if the people step up and get involved.